Greetings, world of the internet, and those listening on your favorite podcast streaming service. It's Angel and Lucky. We're the Modern Relics podcast. We're back again. What's good in the hood, man? How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm feeling a lot better.
Good.
Yeah, last week got me. It was all chest and coughing, and it was a wreck.
I'm sorry to hear that.
But I just surpassed 19 years of marriage.
I was going to say, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I have a rad wife, obviously. I talk very frequently, my fondness of her. But yeah, we just surpassed 19 years on St. Patrick's Day. And
nice.
We went out of town, went up north got a cabin for the night and got away from technology, which as a society, but us individually also spend way too much. So it was good to get away.
Yeah.
And it was also one of those things where now the kids are old enough that we're just like, yeah, we're leaving, bye. Yeah. And then just leave them to their own devices.
Yeah, it's funny. I was chatting with your son. I was playing a video game, and he's like, yeah, mom and dad are out. It's their anniversary. And it didn't occur to me. I was like, oh, all right, St. Patrick's Day. I was like, well, cool. That's awesome. And then I was like, why are you home by yourself? I'm like, wait, you're old enough to be home by yourself.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, that always feels good though, doesn't it? Like one of the perks of like taking longer motorcycle trips for me is divorcing myself from technology altogether. Like I can't have my face stuck to a phone. I can't, like I can listen to music in the helmet if I want to, or that's about it. But it is nice. It is really, really nice. So I'm glad you had a good time. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yeah, for sure.
I had something interesting.
Yeah.
Lots going on. Starting a new position at my work over at Redacted. And so that feels good. It's going to be a nice career change, a new chapter. So I'm excited. I'll get to start immersing there soon. But still in technology, that feels good. A weird thing happened. I'm a big fan of a video game called Apex Legends. And I have a couple of buddies of mine that play this game professionally. And so I like to...
That's the one that Oliver watches you play quite a bit, right?
Yes. And so I try to tune in and just kind of sit there and eat snacks and watch the regional finals and see how their team does. Because it's like a tournament bracket. There's a whole season, and then you play and you get points, and whichever groups in each region and across the world that gets points moves on. Then they have finals, and whoever scores, I think the top 10 teams from each region go on to a live event, a LAN event. And the prize pool's like millions of dollars. So it's serious competition. And so it's pretty cool to cheer on my buddies. There was not one, but two separate instances of very prominent professional players whose machines or accounts were compromised and hacked in the middle of the largest tournament event to see who goes to LAN, and they had to stop the broadcast. I mean, we're talking of just Twitch audience viewers between people watching their favorite streamer or people watching the EA broadcast of it. Probably close to 100,000 people across Twitch tuned into either their favorite dude or the actual event or whatever.
Wow.
And I've never seen anything like it. And now there's wild speculation about, is this remote code execution? Are we all compromised? Is it this? Is it that? And I understand these things to more than average Joe level, like maybe not sophisticated, like
way more than me.
Not like I'm a red team or a black team in some cybersecurity practice that focuses on widespread video games and stuff. I don't think it's that. I'm actually almost positive it's not that. I think the attacker was compromising the server itself, but I've never seen anything like that before, where it was in the middle of the most watched tournament that's sponsored by the EA Pro League.
The level of my ignorance, I didn't even realize. I mean, obviously everything's hackable to some degree, I guess. But first and foremost, like, what would be? I mean, I guess hackers are just basically, sophisticated trolls. So something like this, I guess I wouldn't even have to speculate as to what the motivation was. But
it's hard to speculate motivation because you're right. I mean, a troll's a troll's a troll. It could be, for malicious purposes. It could be for ransom purposes where there's monetary aspects behind it.
Right. What are the bigger implications of something like this, where the two of the highest level players?
Widespread distrust in the game and the platform. Widespread distrust. People uninstalling. Could this happen to me? You know, if you got into the servers, there what's called RCE, or remote code execution. Now, the remotely execute code, and I'll try to simplify it. Within a kernel of information that goes out to a server, you could have what's known as a buffer override, where there's something that's asymmetrical on that little packet of information that spills into and gets accepted by any server, right? And there's ways around defending against that. But if there's no character limit, for example, or size limit on how this can get into a receptive server that either says, I'm accepting this information or I'm declining this information. Well, if it's an unlimited character limit, you could have full lines of code in there, right? So if you embed malware into a server that you could slowly take control of, unlikely scenario. More likely, I compromised a employee's machine who has access to the server, thereby compromising the server, right? A lot less sophisticated. I could feasibly, in scenario 1, execute malicious code to run, or, you know, RCE, remote executable code or command. To get that from the game server to the client, or subsequently to the client's PC, is a level of sophistication that would be absurdly scary. I don't think it's impossible, but I don't think, you would need a wildly sophisticated attack vector, probably from multiple folks, to get something that widespread to happen. So I don't think it's like, uninstall the game and get out of here. I think it's, if I go on this server, I'm going to get inundated with a bunch of hackers and bullshitters and people that run wall hacks and aim bots and all these exploits to the game that I have to tough out and live through. But I don't think my PC's necessarily vulnerable. The problem is the widespread distrust. And if speculation is correct about the attacker, who broadly promoted across the entire event, oh, it's me who's attacking you. If the speculation is to be believed, it's a 15-year-old kid. So I don't think
Oliver
there's
was at home at the time.
Yeah.
He was not on the server.
Now, I did a trace route. It's a little suspect. I did capture some information on that machine I built. No, to be honest with you, I think it was just a look what I can do. Like, you know, and I got you because it's a 15-year-old kid that's likely not looking to oust you for everything you're worth, hold it for ransom, and then dump it into a Cayman Islands account. Anything's possible. But it was very weird to see in a live setting. It's like, well, I mean, as a longtime player and supporter of the game, I kind of cross my arms and go, ha ha ha, this is what we put up with every night we play your fucking game. You know what I mean? Because we have to deal with these shitters quite a bit. But now that it's in your tournament, maybe you'll do something about it. Obviously,
is there any legal ramifications on that 15-year-old kid? Like, I don't even know what the law is for that. Is there something that says that?
If we as players find that we're compromised somehow in that highly unlikely, extremely sophisticated RCE from attacker to server to client that I described a minute ago, yeah. EA Games is up for a big class action lawsuit that I'll be a part of, as will millions of other gamers. But no, not really. I think the only thing that they can do is not ruin these two kids' careers who were playing in a tournament and obviously cheating and didn't know that they were cheating until they recognized it. And both of them put their hands up like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And they're like, just leave the game. Just quit. Leave the game. So they just jumped out of the tournament and had to wait. And then the second guy that happened to, they're like, we're compromised. We're clipping this right now. Stream's over. Broadcast is over. We'll fix it. Maybe we'll find out what we do from here halfway through a tournament. So I don't think, the company themselves could take action against the attacker for sure. We could not unless we're at risk, because the end user license agreement allows certain arbitration stuff unless we're exposed through technology that we didn't know that they could basically use as a portal for maliciousness.
EA could go after the kid in a civil way, but not in a criminal way. The kid, did he violate any criminal?
Yeah, because it's basically like trespassing if you're on somebody else's server and you're not an admin. in a digital way at the very least. But yeah, the amount of damage, they could essentially sue him for lost revenue, which is obvious at this point. Like, if it's a 15-year-old kid, what they're probably going to do is throw the book at him and then say, here's the recompense that you're going to provide. And they're going to like pretty much hold this kid by the scruff of the neck in front of the entire planet and be like, this is what we will do to you, even though they're not going to like probably send him to federal penitentiary forever and ever. If what, you know what I mean? That's how
like
go ahead.
This is the plot of like the 90s, like Johnny Lee Miller movie.
The Hacker.
Hackers.
Yeah, pretty much. No Angelina this time that we know of. But no,
she pops up.
I mean, if you remember the like Napster days and stuff, that's what they would do. They would take some single mom from the suburbs that works 2 jobs that they would crucify for downloading a Celine Dion CD and string her up and,
Was it worth it?
And put her in a yoke and throw tomatoes at her in front of the town square to be like, this is the example we'll make of you. And then they won't actually penalize her. They'll just be like, you know, you can never use our platform again and blah, 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 restriction rights and this and that, and don't ever do it again. And, you know, finger wag and whatever. It's the threat of next time this happens, we're going to cut body parts off of you like Braveheart and send them away in different directions. But it was weird to see. I've never seen that level of attack manifest in an entertainment platform at this scale that way before. And it was pretty benign, obviously. Like he didn't attack everybody in the lobby. He didn't, you know, there was no real reason for it, and was very, very prominently took over the victim's account and put like, basically, this is me that's doing this, blah, 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 ha, 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 you know, that kind of stuff, which was showing up when you would cut to his perspective. And you're like, oh my gosh, like this is, and I'm just slow clapping. Like finally EA can see that this is what their player base puts up with on their servers. Fix it, you know?
Yeah. No
so,
kidding.
But it was weird.
Do you think this kid just had like a vendetta against these 2 guys, or do you think that like,
well, there's a lot of speculation, right? Like it's if it's to be believed that this person's 15 or whatever, it could be a disgruntled former employee that they didn't cycle off his passwords yet. It could be way more nefarious than that. It could be a very sophisticated remote code executable bot from a series of endpoints, a team of folks doing this, and they just chose to do a really dumb version of it live. The way that this is perpetrated and my knowledge of, I think, how something like this could have happened, it's more likely than not it is a 15-year-old kid that just like, look what I can do. And everyone's talking about him, including myself, which is probably like mission accomplished. Right. You know, I am zero cool. I took down Apex one time so he could go to some black hat forum and brag about it when he's 17, you know, but yeah, I don't know. But it was very interesting to see live and be like, oh, well, 2 things are happening here. 1, this is happening, and I'm glad EA gets to kind of feel what we've been feeling. And 2, I'm kind of bummed out because I don't know if my buddy and his team actually did well or not because they cut the damn tournament off at the knees. So more to come. My week's been weird, though. That was a long way of saying my week's been weird.
Out of curiosity, does this have any applicable bridges over to, let's say, the ease and ability to be able to do a very similar thing, but through military strategists such as like drone flyers and other such things? I mean, is this something that has the same kind of hackable, like I'm trying to fumble through terminology I know nothing about, but like I'm thinking that if this kid could do it here within like this scope and take complete control over the system of these players, what's the difference between him doing that or him going, you know what, I feel like flying a couple of government drones around?
Yeah.
You know?
So I think the obvious answer there is you take a big box company like EA Games, right? And within it, you're going to have your security teams and your community managers that are on fire right now. And then you have all the other parts of this ecosystem. You have your marketing team, you have your heirloom developers, your package people. They're all still doing their jobs. And it's against their project timeline to say, guess what? We have a new heirloom that came out and we'd like for you to buy it in the store. and everyone's like, I'm not buying shit. Your game's on fire. They're still doing their job. And like on the other side of the company, some stuff's happening. So this ecosystem is retail focused. What you're talking about is probably a little bigger than that. And I would assume the security team for something like that probably, hopefully, has bigger layers to this. But yes, from a foundational perspective, anything that is accessed through a server, a cluster of servers, a cloud, something like that, that takes remote commands or runs in an autonomous fashion has to have an endpoint somewhere where commands are fed and received and modified from. So yeah, sure. If there's a manned person at a military installation that's operating a drone with the remote and whatever sophisticated tools they have, and someone takes over that particular drone from point to point, it's a different attack pattern. Right. It's a different way of getting there.
Totally understandable in a military situation. However, while you were talking, it also occurred to me that most of, like, let's say a city or a county's power grid or any of their kind of infrastructure, they tend to have very poor security measures.
Healthcare is worse than all of it, by the way.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So any of that stuff would be highly susceptible in this kind of same manner from an individual such as this kid or whoever it was, who just felt like doing it, you know? Yeah. And that's really how fragile, if, you know, I would imagine that, you know, EA Games and Apex Legends has a pretty crack security team. You know, they don't want people doing what they're doing. You know, they need to make sure that they're on top of that, and they probably put a pretty penny behind that. However, it's probably not in the top 10 in the world, but I know that most infrastructure for most cities is far less than EA Games as far as their security measures.
You'd be surprised, yes and no. Like, Apex Legends is a free-to-play game, and so there's a lot of bit less of a barrier to entry to attack a game like that than would be a AAA title I paid $60 for. Right. Now, EA is a pretty big outfit and so forth, but they don't necessarily go after attackers one-to-one to try and squelch the attacker. They try to do things by defeat the enemy with a swarm tactic. So you'll hear occasionally that thousands or tens of thousands of players get banned in a giant wave. And usually they do it every 6 months to a year. Apex, not as much as other companies, but the reason they do that is the folks that are profiting on selling you the game cheats, they won't know what you fixed. They'll just know that suddenly the game cheat they sold this person doesn't work anymore. This person is now a pissed off customer of theirs, and they're going to go out of business. So EA Games sits back and goes, hey man, all I got to do is like aggregate all these complaints and verify as much as I can. And when I have enough of you, I'm just going to drop the hammer and whack the entire cheating community. I can't stop you from building another account, opening a new Steam account under a new email address and come back at me again. But what I can do is stick it to every one of those cheat makers that sold you that cheat or that bot or that executable that you're running on your machine to play my game with. And I'm going to overwhelm them so much, not only turning you into an ally for me by being an angry customer of theirs now, but also you can't play my game until you figure out a way to run that with another new account and you have to start over. That's the best thing I can do against that in a free-to-play setting of this scale and magnitude, more so than attacking the single individual person. To your earlier point about the security around public sector things, right? Yeah. Some places invest in hiring ethical hackers to come breach their stuff. Find me vulnerabilities. This is my system. You're a user. I want you to use a public access point, a private access point. I want you to use several different machines. Attack my system because I'm paying for you to tell me where I fucked up. Right. And some places do this a lot, particularly utility companies and stuff like that, because there's big implications to that. You'd be surprised at how lax the security can be around things like public health sector, like your medical records and your shots. And you know what, I've usually when the idea of identity theft comes up, what scares me the most is not that someone stole my credit card. That's the bank's money. You know what the bank's going to do when I tell them someone stole my credit card? They're going to close it and they will send me a card that night in the mail because that's their money. A little different when it's your debit card because it's your money. You got to talk to the bank manager and you got to go up to this person and you got to go and 10 to 15 to 20 days later, you get your card back and there's a whole rigmarole turning your account back on. When it's their money, it's hilarious how fast they take action. That said, when you look at like identity theft, what scares me the most is somebody getting my medical history. Say you're allergic to penicillin and I steal your identity and I go get some health care, whatever, on your dime. Suddenly you've got all these claims. Oh my God, my identity's been stolen. A few years later, you get it fixed. You're back. Everything's fine and dandy. God damn it, that sucked. But then something happens to you and you go back to that hospital and you're incapacitated and they pull up your medical records and, well, 8 years ago, we stuck him full of penicillin, shoot him, and they kill you. They kill you because your medical records were absconded with by some asshole 8 years ago. Now your identity was fixed up, but your health record was never updated. And that stuff's very, very widespread. So like, that's a very extreme edge case, but it is definitely within the realm of possibility of things one doesn't think about outside of just, fuck, my credit card was stolen, right? So like, all of these things that are interconnected that you would imagine would need a lot more security probably don't have those to the degree that you would hope. But to answer your question in a way long-winded way to a simple answer, yeah, it could happen. It could happen. Somebody like this kid could attack a utility company and start shutting off your house or putting all these credits that you were owed onto his account or manipulating a system and such where they come shut off your utilities. And for reasons that remain unclear, could just be, that guy's going to have a shit Monday, to more nefarious reasons. One never knows unless you're actually the attacker themselves. It's hard to speculate reasons why, but yeah, it could happen.
You're just selling me more and more on the living on the farm life that I've been dreaming about anyway. But
yeah, you know where the safest place to put your money is?
In a mattress?
In a mattress next to your gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate to say it, but like we've seen the ups and downs of the stock market, and that's just native to the stock market, but the financial institution at large behind it, not least of which is what it's predicated on, the economical structure of making it run or valuable or not, plus minus bailouts in 2008. Like we've seen a lot of stuff that should make people a little scared about that type of thing. But from a cyber perspective, everything's at risk. You take a risk every time you log on to something, every time you activate a new application on your phone. This is the world we live in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
So my week was weird. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, let's polish off the weirdness. I have been having an itch for some more Gen Z Bible.
Let's do it. You want to start there? We start there.
Yeah. Let's start there. It's a good way to start.
So we left off at chapter 3, did we not? I think it was.
Yes, we did.
Mary and a pick-me girl. Let's see.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Chapter 4, Christmas.
Oh, good. Oh, man, I love the holidays.
I know it's a bit late for a Christmas story, but here we go. Chapter 4, Christmas. After Gabriel ghosted Mary, she was vibing with the divine G within her. When Joseph realized something was sus, he was about to low-key ghost her too, but Angel spilled the holy tea to him saying, bro, chill. For the chile is of the divine G. So without saying a word, he said, say less, which is kind of an oxymoron. At the time, Caesar wanted to know how the math be mathin', so bro casually created mandatory road trips for everybody. Mary and Joseph yeeted from their hometown and skirted to the city of Bethlehem for the census.
They sure did.
When they rolled up to the inns, there were no vacancies, so they popped that stable door open. Then Mary entered her motherhood era, and the son of the top G was born into the world, and they named him Jesus, as Gabriel told them to. Now, some shepherds were chilling in a nearby field when an angel pulled up to spill the holy tea that the main character was born onto the world, the one prophesied in the divine dad lore, who would save us all from our L's. He was joined by a chat full of angels, and they were spitting holy fire. And the shepherds let them cook, for it was divinely bussin'. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Divinely bussin'.
Gen Z Bible, chapter 4. This gets better and better and better.
Seriously, that was the best money you ever spent right there. Sitting in your hand.
Gotta get you one of these. I don't know if this person is like a total turd of a human being and I'm supporting a turd or not, but damn it, this is funny. So I'll take the L's on that one on behalf of the Divine G, in accordance with the Dad lore.
I just can't get enough of it. I love it. My kids hate it so bad.
Yeah.
They cannot like be in the same room when that book is being read.
When you come to visit, and we're all either chilling, maybe by the pool, hot tub after dinner or something, and we're just relaxing, you should make the children read you from the Gospel of Gen Z. Just come on, kids. One story. Come on.
Yeah.
It's a short one.
Make them act it out. Just act out a chapter.
Yes.
It's time for a play, children.
Yeah, it's Gen Z Bible or the Gospel by Gen Z live action role played.
Yeah.
So we got some news around the horn, man. The weird week
going on in the weird world right now.
Yeah, the weird week continues. I think we'll start here. We had a judge ruling this month.
We certainly did.
The judge dropped gun charges against an illegal migrant in the state of Illinois, sparking a little debate about the rights associated with the Second Amendment to non-citizens, which is a pretty easy debate to quell, in my opinion. There aren't any.
Yeah, I don't think there's a debate at all. U.S. District Judge Sharon Johnson Coleman, appointed by Barack Obama.
Hey, I know that guy.
Yeah, ruled that an illegal immigrant has the right to bear arms under the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. I beg to differ.
Yeah.
I don't know where she got her crackerjack law degree, which coincidentally, I don't know if, and tied into this, just yesterday it was passed in our old state of Washington.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw this.
I did.
But they are no longer requiring that after a 4-year study, by the way, that anyone need pass the bar in order to get their law degree, because apparently the bar was alienating. How was it phrased? Alienating. What is the terminology I'm looking for? Marginalized people.
Yep.
So therefore, it is no longer necessary.
So you don't need to know the law and test that you know the law to practice law in Washington State, because it's easier to throw the baby out with the bathwater because of the perception of the ability to study up for that and get said certification is negatively impacting marginalized groups?
Yes, precisely. So, free for all, Washington. Everyone's a lawyer.
So does that mean then that the high capacity magazine is no longer lawful if somebody that doesn't have a law degree passes a new law that says it's not lawful?
I think we're going to be stumbling upon a lot of those questions.
I dare you to make less sense. What is going on? Like, how does any of that make sense to a child's level understanding of how that should make sense?
It is a fulfillment of basically a lowering of standards that has been going on for a very long time, especially in law. We are now watching, I think the biggest issue, politicians be damned. Everything else basically be damned. Right now, I think the country's biggest issue, bar none, no pun intended, is our legal issues. That everything from judges to the Supreme Court and everything down below, we are having an absolute collapse of our judicial system.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels manufactured. It feels intentional. It doesn't feel like this makes...
Feels like the
across
fog
the
of
board.
war, doesn't it? Like
Yeah.
we just don't know, and everything's in disarray. And like, granted, bro, I'm the first person to like talk shit about doctors and lawyers, and
Yeah,
because
100%.
I'm jaded and because I have good reasons for it here and there, but it's mostly in jest. Where, well, that's why they call them a practice. You know what I mean? Where it's like,
Right.
whatever. But this is kind of bananas. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like what then
There's
is
no
enforceable?
There's literally no way that you can look at this story with this judge in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that you can look at this and at all determine that she interpreted the Constitution correctly. It is absolutely, the Constitution is only for citizens, period.
Mm-hmm.
It always has been. For her to somehow, I don't even think she believes it. I think that it was
towing a party line.
Well, not only towing a party line, she was actually given orders. This is how you're going to rule on this because we need these people to be able to have firearms. I think it's far more nefarious than that. I think the judicial system is being used as a weapon against the American people right now. And you've got people in place that are acting as the mouthpiece for it. And she's one of them. Because there's just no way that she can sit here and look at people seriously and go, I think the Constitution meant even non-citizens can have firearms.
I hear these stories popping up, and the narrative that starts to bubble up to the top is, we have a illegal immigration problem such to the degree that it's obvious now that men of fighting age and they're standing up a militia and they're being strategically sprinkled throughout the country and this and that. And part of you has to recoil a little bit and be like, okay, let's calm down with the tinfoil for a moment and figure out if this is not just one problem that is now a compound problem of other problems, and that it can be fixed with the right amount of voices and the right amount of governance. But this is really hard to ignore that fact now.
Yeah.
Now we've got stuff that's like, no.
I'm a reasonable man who will always look for the best case scenario and everything.
It's chipping away at my ability to defend that from a level-headed standpoint of saying, well, that might just be a little too extreme. Okay. Yeah. I see this is a possibility, but where's the evidence long-term? It's getting harder and harder and harder, dude, to ignore that something kind of feels like it's at play here.
Right. Because you sit there and you want to think that maybe they're just doing it for the votes, right? To get voters in or through a census change, the population centers so that it puts more delegates in different voting places for the college for
the electoral college process.
The electoral college process, and you're like, okay, like that is an obvious kind of like gimme. That's kind of what they're trying to do. But then you start seeing stuff like this, or seeing stuff like, people going, hey, I own a motel. Mm-hmm. And I have, the government just paid me to house all of these migrants. They're all dudes, no women. Mm-hmm. And then they got a bunch of crates dropped off, and we thought maybe it's food and supplies and stuff for these migrants. They all get a ton of money. They all get a ton of stuff. And then when the crates are open, they're all firearms in these crates. What is happening? Mm-hmm. They're all given firearms. And this is happening more and more and more. And it feels like they're being strategically placed throughout the country. Now you've got talk of them using them in the military. You've got talk of certain cities saying that they're going to hire illegal immigrants as police force, as law enforcement. You've got an insane, this is getting impossible to ignore, that it's far beyond just votes.
Yeah.
that there's something else at foot here. And
This much is obvious. However, it's for reasons that remain unclear. But it's becoming more and more obvious. And that's the part that I really struggle with going, God, could it, you entertain it a little bit. Like, what could this be? But
what would be the purpose of allowing this? Like, what would be the purpose of this ruling?
Complete destabilization if more judges take on the fact that they agree about the rights associated with the Second Amendment? Like,
yeah. I mean, this is going to have to get, I'm guessing this will get appealed. I'm guessing that this will get taken up the ladder, the judicial ladder, and get reversed by the time it gets to the Supreme Court. Fortunately, we've got a fairly decent Supreme Court at the moment that has some type of reasonable kind of head on their shoulders. But
when does the Supreme Court say, like, can we drop the hammer on all the lower courts and get rid of all these knuckleheads? We're too busy to see all these cases because you guys obviously don't know the law. Maybe because we're hiring you out of Washington State now. I don't know.
I think that what should be done coming up, given things go in a positive direction this next election cycle, I think one of the things that should be done is kind of like a sweeping of that. I think there should be like a church trial, like basically going through all of these judges and going, we're now putting you under review, and you're going to testify in front of Congress to actually see what your motivations were, and actually not only that, but see if your credentials are up to snuff, because you obviously are making incredibly bad judicial decisions.
Yeah.
That are obviously against the law, obviously unconstitutional. And so we have to understand your motivation behind it and who's paying you and like where your money's coming from. Look through and comb through. And I'm sorry, as a judge, you're a public official and you are under that type of scrutiny. You do not have a right to privacy. So, I think that there should be kind of a church commission, like they did with the CIA back in the 70s, but a judicial commission. I think that we should really take a look at what the judicial system throughout the United States, all of these lower court judges are making insane rulings all over Texas and the border down there, this judge, all sorts of them. It's getting really bad, and it needs to be handled because that's where most of our problems are coming from. Is from bad judicial takes. I mean, look at what's going on with Trump and all of his insane judicial takes. I mean, look at New York right now. New York is fleeing. All of their businesses are fleeing because they're like, I do exactly what he did. Now he's getting like shredded for non-illegal stuff, but you just don't like him. So who's next? None of this is legal. They're just going insane with all of this. And I think our biggest problem in the United States right now is judges. I think we need to have a full-on church committee, a full-on.
The thing is that scares me about that is that underneath all this, you have society right now that's conditioned to execute mob mentality en masse and crucify the dissenters in the court of public opinion. So, if it seems fair and likely, or it's the prevailing majority, most of society right now will accept it hand over fist. Okay, well, the judge said so.
Yeah. And they're getting away with it because of that. Because
so if this is sophisticated
lack of understanding.
Yeah, if it's sophisticated destabilization, boy, this plan is a pretty good one. It's working.
Yeah, it certainly is.
My God. I mean,
it's also connected something like another situation that is kind of somewhat connected to this through the illegal alien stuff. I refuse to use the words migrant or undocumented person. You broke a law by entering this country. You are illegal.
Yeah,
plain and simple. So I think Tim Pool has started calling them criminal aliens now, like not even illegal aliens, criminal aliens. And I don't think we should get into it tonight, but the amount of assaults and rapes that are happening
Oh my God.
is
Yeah.
it's daily. It's
Yeah.
daily, and it's getting worse and worse as time goes on. And so, I, I I just have nothing to say. Like I'm getting worked up just by. But didn't it? Tyson Foods.
Yeah. So
What
this popped up.
it's kind of connected with this too, because this is crazy.
Yeah. So Tyson Chicken, Tyson Foods.
Yep.
They decided that they were going to close down an Iowa pork factory. This town that it's in is 8,000 people.
Yeah, it's not very big.
And
it's like, doesn't it like
1,000 jobs are supplied to a town of 8,000 people. So this is
huge.
Massive.
Yeah, because I mean, that 8,000 people isn't all workers. There's old people and children within that. So you're talking about probably, let's say at max, 4,000 to 5,000 of those people are actually, the employable workforce of that community.
Right.
So what does that mean? That means that Tyson Foods literally employs nearly a quarter of that population.
Pretty much. That's exactly what that means. And the simultaneously, while they're shuttering the pork factory in Iowa, the company reportedly met and hired migrants in Manhattan for positions over at a Tennessee plant. So I wonder if it came with an executive relocation package and they get a free trip out to Tennessee. After announcing it will join the Tent Partnership for Refugees, staff from the poultry heavyweight engaged with asylum seekers at a New York office of Chobani Yogurt. Why is Chobani Yogurt part of this? Well, your CEO, and I'm going to butcher this, I apologize, Hamdi Ulukaya, founded this charity.
With him.
At least 87 migrants from Central and South America were hired in 2 separate groups, according to a Tribune News service. Same report said Tyson employs about 42,000 immigrants, and the company's corporate and social responsibility executive said, and I quote, "We would like to employ another 42,000 if we could find them," end quote.
Oh, naturally, because they're way cheaper because it's slave labor that you're putting on these people.
So in response, Senator J.D. Vance, Republican of Ohio, said, companies who lay off Americans while seeking foreign nationals to open positions should face congressional scrutiny. Quote, "We're certainly going to look into whether we can change that ability, assuming Tyson is operating legally," end quote. Quote, "All we know is that they're firing American workers and hiring illegal aliens to replace them. This is the entire point of illegal immigration. And we've got to hammer this point home," end quote.
Wow. So first and foremost, the ethics is just out the window. How do you fire a bunch of American people and then simultaneously in the same breath out of the other side of your mouth go down and hire a bunch of people who are illegally here? What a slap in the face to all of those families. And my guess, and this is just a guess, is that Tyson Foods in a factory setting probably forced all of those employees to get a vaccine. And then after that, they get fired only for that same company to go hire a bunch of other illegal aliens that do not have to have that vaccine. Unreal. That it is disgusting that this company, I mean, I'll never buy Tyson again. Plain and simple. I hope nobody buys Tyson again just for that. But going further, this organization that's being put together by the guy who owns Chobani Yogurt, which I haven't bought Chobani Yogurt for probably 3 or 4 years now, since I found out that guy's main, and I forget his name, you just mentioned it, but he's been on our radar. Yeah, he's been on our radar in Idaho for a while, because in southern Idaho, that's one of the bigger employers. They have he's actually lives in Idaho. He has a New York office, but he lives in Idaho. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. But he is known and lobbies Boise constantly for getting illegals into the country, because he actually has entire giant pieces of land where he has all of these homes that he owns that he houses them in. and he actually only hires illegal aliens and then moves them to Idaho. And so he's one of the lobbyists for them to at Boise. And so he's one of our biggest enemies. We do not like this guy. And so it is not surprising at all that he's behind this whole thing with Tyson, with this organization he's put together. This is crazy.
Here's what I could say to the skeptics. Like, there may be some or a lot of misinformation about what I just said. What's undeniable is looking at it from a very third-party perspective and saying, regardless of who's funding this outreach program that you're a part of, and regardless of what was said, and if there was something taken out of context or how the news media reported it, what did happen is layoffs are occurring at a plant that they're closing, and at the very same time, job fairs are happening that are only hiring illegal aliens and moving these immigrants to Tennessee.
Yeah.
That isn't misinformation. So whether you take one ethical stance to this or another, agnostic of the circumstances around it, that's literally taking American jobs, handing it to illegal aliens for reasons that remain unclear. So, I mean, you can hate on that all you want, but that's still the fact. So kind of not as bad as a judge ruling on, who can carry a firearm and shit, but very hand in hand. So these things are happening, and it's at a pretty alarming rate. And I'm interested to see the political overcorrection, which I'm kind of looking forward to, if things change in the White House this November. Where a lot of feelings are going to get hurt and this and that and the other thing, but something has to change. People are like, to your point, and it's stuff I'm probably not ready to get into in a podcast about the assault victims and stuff as a result of the illegal alien issue that's going on. But it's bananas, man. Like, I don't know. We'll keep you.
I have a 18-year-old daughter, who, as a father, I have to worry about, that kind of stuff happening in general all the time anyway. But now, like, I am forced as a dad to look at a group of guys who are roaming around Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, suspiciously, because now I'm like, obviously they're not from here. They're obviously in an area where I'm very familiar with the population here, and a group of 6 South American guys looking lost in brand new, Ross discount clothes, wandering around, living in a hotel behind my tattoo shop. Like, I have to notice these things now, and I have to be suspicious, and then I have to think about, this is what I've been seeing in the news. This is the people that my daughter has to worry about. Now, I've already planted in my head that this is a roving gang of rapists.
Because you're a dad. Why wouldn't you?
Because I'm a dad, and I have to think that. I have to be on alert and protect my daughter. So what is evil about that is that whatever the U.S. government entity that is providing them access to and over our border, and then like pushing them out within our country, is not only putting my daughter and me and my family and the community at risk because of a clash of culture and them not understanding our laws, but it's also putting them at danger from dads like me who now view them as, oh, you are part of what I just saw, with the Lakin girl, and with all of the other stuff going on.
And for every,
it's not fair to them either.
This is made up numbers, but let's just say for every 100 concerned dads, there's someone that decides to go vigilante. I mean, that's your point taken right there. Like, they could just go out on some massive shooting spree and just kill a bunch of dudes that are living in a hotel. I mean,
one dad who has a 16, 17-year-old daughter who gets raped and murdered, and he snaps. And he snaps. Like, that's all it's going to take. But I think that's kind of the point. I think that that's what the entire point is to push that type of escalation. They need it. They need that in order to kind of accelerate a civil conflict. And how do you do that? You push normal people to their edges until they cannot go any further.
And you continue to destabilize the foundation of American architecture.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and I think it's an orchestrated takedown of, of the United States. And I think it's intentional. And then you get judges like this who are saying, oh yeah, they're totally legally able to run around with guns if they want to. What is the reaction and the response that they are expecting from that?
Right. That's exactly the question. What do you expect will come of this?
Yeah. So do you expect the general population of the United States of America, 325 million people, to just go, oh yeah, no, that's totally okay. That's totally fine. They can take all of our factory jobs that you literally stripped from us and are just handing over without even hiding it, handing over. And then on top of that, they also get the same inalienable rights that were given to us as citizens, which they have access to if they become citizens. It's not saying that they can't have them. We're saying there's a process to that.
And that's a point that's probably worth exploring a little bit. Like, I think both of us, I'll speak for me, not you, for sure, are huge fans of becoming an American citizen. It's kind of kick-ass to be an American citizen. If you enter the country legally and you go through the process that it takes to become a citizen, awesome. That's really cool.
And for the record, it's not as if I or you don't know a vast number of people who've gone through that process.
Yep. I work with a few.
We're not speaking from ignorance of you don't know how hard it is because you're just a bunch of dumb white guys sitting in a room. That's not the case at all. Like, I have a enormous amount of friends and clients that even were Chinese nationalists.
I work with a bunch and actually helped prep one for their citizenship.
For their test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point that out. Like, this is not armchair political commentary from two overprivileged white guys born into a life of luxury in a country where rights and freedoms are not only rights and freedoms, but also expected as we look down our noses from the glass tower at the rest of the world.
But this is egregious.
200 plus years ago, a lot of people fought and died for that to be codified. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
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 More news. You wanted to talk about this warlord guy, barbecue, the Haitian Creole barbecue. It's Jimmy Cherizier, I believe. Here's what's interesting. I was reading his wiki offline before the prepping for the show.
You have a wiki?
I have a wiki.
Oh, that's so nice. That's
born
so nice
1976 or 1977. So the very first statement, let's take all of this with a grain of salt.
So he's Gen X, so he's ruthless.
Nicknamed Barbecue, is a Haitian gang leader, former police officer, and current warlord. So this guy's had a hell of a resume. Done a lot of stuff, right? He's the head of the revolutionary forces of the G9, which is basically a big gang, families and allies.
I think I have G9 ammunition.
I think so
Pretty
too.
Awesome ammunition, yeah.
It's abbreviated as G9 or FRG9, is a federation of over a dozen Haitian gangs based in Port-au-Prince, known for often making public appearances in military camouflage and a beret. Calls himself the leader of an armed revolution. Considered one of the most powerful gang leaders in Haiti, he is also currently believed to be one of the country's de facto most powerful political figures as a result. He's believed to be responsible for numerous large-scale massacres in Port-au-Prince area. And in early March 2024, G9 staged the largest jailbreak in Haitian history and escalated attacks across the country, including an attempted siege of the Toussaint-Louverture International Airport. Cherizier claimed responsibility for the attacks and stated that the goal was to capture key government institutions, overthrow Prime Minister Ariel Henry, and take power in Haiti, warning that, quote, if Ariel Henry doesn't step down and the international community continues to support him, It will lead us directly to a civil war, which will end in genocide, end quote. Henry announced his intention to resign on March 11th.
Wow.
He was like, yeah, fuck it. I'm out.
Now, didn't a bunch of celebrities just go, like, recently go to Haiti to go, look, it's fine? Like Conan O'Brien, a bunch of people, like, go there.
I don't know.
All those stories are crazy.
I've been kind of unplugged with recent life happenings. I mean, for probably about a month, I've had my nose out of the internet for that type of stuff. But to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me. That said, I mean, March 11th was, what, a week ago? A little more than a week ago. So.
And he resigned?
Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of shit about the G9 family, early career, gang war with G-Pep, rise to prominence, a bunch of unrest in 2024. But that's kind of the I don't know if this is true or not because I got it from Wikipedia, not citing sources article about this guy. But yeah.
So why do they call him Barbecue?
I think it's because he lights people on fire. I'm trying to figure out where did he get his nickname from. Do you know the answer to that question? Was that a leading question?
Well, it was a little, but
I was like, I think it's because he literally lights people on fire.
Well, he's been known, and there's pictures that came out of him like cooking and eating human flesh as a warning, to people, as this is what happens if you come up against me, which is, from what I understand, one of the negotiation reasons as to why that gentleman stepped down from his post as de facto president of Haiti, because he did not want to get eaten by barbecue.
So, so if someone calls me a snack, I'm just that's what that means. I'm gonna get barbecued.
But
I think you're right. It doesn't, obviously Wiki doesn't cover that, but damn. Sounds like an upstanding guy. Really a go-getter.
Well, another beautiful little aspect to this story is that he's sending people up into the United States through the southern border. These guys, his gang members, the G9 boys, are all flooding our borders. So, much like a fictional apocalyptic novel, apparently we are getting cannibal gangs coming up through our southern border up into the United States. So hopefully we survive it so that we can make a video game about it afterward. Yes.
But I mean, it's just insane. It's like,
this can't be, you couldn't write this.
No.
You know, it would read like a really bad book. Like, the crazy Haitian cannibal gangs came up through the border, you know, like.
Right. Was this before or after the super virus? Well, actually, it was after the super virus.
So, I don't know, man. Like, I just, the news has become a carnival.
It's a millstone, and it's just grinding and grinding and grinding out more and more and more yuck.
Yeah.
It's just wild. I never thought I would ever have to talk about like the possible invasion of Haitian cannibal gangs, you know, like.
Well, I don't know how to transition this one, but I'm going to try and shift gears. Allow me to try. If Haitian cannibal gangs is not your preferred way to go out, the alternative is to work at Boeing for 30 years before retiring in 2017 and then whistleblow a lawsuit against Boeing and wind up dead.
And get the retirement package.
Oh, did you hear about this? Dude.
It's even in like the Seattle looks like shit like stuff that's big, you know, like they're even covering this because folks,
how is your Boeing stock doing right now? We've had doors on airplanes get ripped open during flight. Like,
there's no way Boeing survives this.
Several occasions this has happened. We've had billion documentaries come out on Netflix that, like, one of which I sat through, I was just like, holy shit. And they kind of go through, like, here's where quality dropped off after this merger, and here's all the stuff that they were hiding from us. And it was obviously to, like, placate the topical news story of, like, these airplane doors blowing off and stuff, because you could tell they didn't, like, research a whole hell of a lot. They just wanted to get this documentary out. So I'm not going to tell you the name of it because it's kind of shitty, but you can look for it on Netflix. That said, this guy, like, straight up just it winds up dead right after the whistleblower lawsuit against the company surfaces.
He was getting ready to go in to do deposition. He was actually going in to actually put down more deposition, and told his friend, hey, if something happens to me, I'm not suicidal at all. So, wow.
So from 2010 on, he was employed as a quality manager at the North Charleston plant. The facility builds the 787 Dreamliner, a state-of-the-art airliner mainly used on long-haul routes. 2019, this man told the BBC that under pressure, workers had been deliberately fitting substandard parts to aircraft on the production line, and also said he uncovered serious problems with the oxygen systems, which could mean 1 in 4 breathing masks would not work in an emergency. Said soon after starting work in South Carolina, he'd become concerned that the push to get the new aircraft built meant the assembly process was rushed, safety was compromised, and something the company wholeheartedly denied. He later told BBC workers, that's where I'm reading the story from, is BBC, had failed to follow procedures intended to track components through the factory, allowing defective components to go missing. Said in some cases, substandard parts had even been removed from scrap bins and fitted to planes that were being built to prevent delays on the production line. Claims also tests on emergency oxygen systems due to be fitted on the 787 showed failure rate of 25%, reinforcing that 1 in 4 could fail to deploy in a real-life emergency. Mr. Barnett had alerted managers to his concerns. No action had been taken. Boeing denied the assertions. But in 2017, a review by U.S. regulator, the Federal Aviation Administration, did uphold some of Mr. Barnett's concerns. This goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on about how much scrutiny they were under in trying to sweep aside between the FAA, Boeing, and all this stuff that is now surfacing. And then homeboy finds himself dead.
Yeah. And there's tapes missing in the deposition tapes of time-stamped where with the door that fell off, they can't find that tape. This is the death knell. Like, they could have probably pulled out of this as a company. They would have had probably a huge market drop, stuff like that, because of just the planes falling out of the sky or catching fire or losing fuel and all of the different things that have been going on over the last year with Boeing airplanes.
Increased transparency. You hire a whole bunch of new regulators to help assist your company in the right direction. You completely steamroll out your executive community and bring in new leaders.
A company this size could have probably pulled out of this.
Yeah.
Not anymore. You just literally murdered in front of everybody the guy who was trying to bring this all to the attention.
Yep.
There's no way around it. Like, you've denied everything, pushed everything off, continued going in the same trajectory after you were told by multiple organizations and people that you need to step it up or else. And then the guy who goes to tell everybody ends up dead in his car with gunshot wounds. You're done.
Yeah.
Like, give it a year. Like, the factories in Everett, the factories in Renton, the factory in Charleston, which is the newest one, they're done. Like, they're going to be doing layoffs. They're not going to be able to. No one's going to be buying the planes anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The stocks are going to crash. Like, wow.
I mean,
wow. Like,
yeah. Who's the biggest competitor? It's Airbus, isn't it?
I would say, Airbus is probably their biggest competitor for sure. But
or Lockheed could probably scoop in and start making commercial aircraft.
Yeah.
Like smaller ones and just start pumping them out. That's, I don't know. That's
but there's no way around it. This dude, Boeing whistleblower who died suspiciously, said to his friend before his death, if anything happens to me, it's not suicide.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, John Barnett, like, unreal that they literally
Offed this dude so he wouldn't talk anymore. The guy didn't kill himself. He was literally waiting to go back inside to go continue some deposition in the garage of, I think, the courthouse.
I mean,
the game. Let's see.
Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
In a hotel parking lot shortly after testifying against the aerospace company is where they found him. He's like, all right, told on him, and then kills himself? That doesn't even make any sense.
When does Boeing go before Congress? Again.
Hopefully. I think this might trigger that. So,
are you ready? Are you ready for a quick breaking news?
Yeah.
They called it in Ohio. Only 73% reported in, but of the 73%, 79.2 in climbing votes are Donald Trump. The Associated Press called the race for Ohio, and my gut instinct was right on Hawaii. 97% Donald Trump.
97% Donald Trump.
Because I was like,
in Hawaii.
I was like, I wonder what Hawaii's going to do after all this, and there it is. So, yeah.
I would use the term bloodbath, but apparently that's a terminology we're not allowed to use anymore.
Well, whatever. This is, mind you, the Republican Party, right? The Democratic Party still has 93 Ohio delegates won by Joe Biden, 79 Ohio delegates won by Donald Trump, but this is beating out Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Chris Christie, and Vivek Ramaswamy. So it's still going to be a battleground state for sure. That said, I mean, it's kind of a wash coming in for.
Ultimately, I still think Hawaii is going to vote blue in November.
Yeah.
I don't see that as I don't think it'll be, but I think it'll be a lot more purple.
I think so too.
I think that you're going to start seeing that the totals are swaying definitely in a different direction.
How could they not? The government says nothing, hands them $700 after the Maui Island catches fire under extremely suspect conditions with a lot of sweeping under the rugs, non-information, not even misinformation, just non-information for a long time. Private people on GoPros and cell phones getting kicked out of residential areas, some of which they actually live in, and then nothing getting done. Meanwhile, we're handing billions of dollars to Ukraine. It like in the thick of all that. So yeah, I'd be pretty pissed off if I was a constituent of Hawaii living through this as well, of the current government and their lackadaisical response, if any at all, while you get to watch American dollars fly out the window to Ukraine, at least at that time.
This is I think all of this is joined to the exact point we were making earlier. They are intentionally pushing buttons on the American people to see how pissed off, how far they can push them. And I mean, you can't deny that. You can't deny it for the people in Palestine, Ohio. Yeah. You can't deny it for the people in Hawaii. You can't deny it for the factory workers at the Tyson plant. You can't deny it for all of these people who are now. If you're trying to win votes as a party, as a president, as a leader of the first world, as the leader of America, like, you're trying to win votes, this isn't how you do it.
Right.
And they know that. They know that this isn't how you do it.
You gotta.
So what is the motivation behind it?
You gotta care, or at least give a little bit of a shit about the people that put you in office.
Yeah.
And would be a good start.
You're not only not giving a shit, you're actually going out of your way to actually prove that you don't.
Right.
And almost just scoffing at you, going, my economy is the best economy we've ever seen.
Is it
jobs
though?
are up. It's not.
Yeah.
And everyone is not dumb. Most people, well, not everyone, but most people are smart enough to see it. it's impossible to ignore when you're looking at your grocery bill. It's impossible to ignore when your rent's been doubled.
Yeah.
You know, it's impossible to ignore when you can't afford to do anything. I mean, kids are crying all over TikTok about it. 25-year-old kids are going, how am I supposed to survive sitting in their car crying?
Right.
You know, and then all of the things that you promised, like, you know, wiping away their education, which you don't have the legal authority to do. And you promised all these kids, but you haven't delivered.
Yeah.
And so, like, even your bad promises that are illegal promises, but they were counting on it. So
right.
You've lost them too.
All that student debt forgiveness. Yeah.
Right. And then down the line, even on a kind of, you know, on the kind of the global front, you're losing it because you're not choosing between Israel and Palestine enough for either side. So you're losing I've seen. I mean, he's being protested by, you know, Hamas and
right.
Palestine protesters, you know, supporters nearly daily. He can't do an event without
right.
them taking over the event. So he's lost all of the Muslim population. Like, what is happening? Like, what decisions are you making intentionally, or the people around you?
This is, by the way, just domestically, like, lest we forget the amount of confidence on the world stage America lost by ripping out of Afghanistan after all of that and just abandoning ship in all the promises that were made that didn't happen, all the infrastructure we didn't get a chance to build because we had to end the endless war and all the other propaganda and bullshit. Meanwhile, what happened literally not even overnight, same day, is that you have the Al-Qaeda terrorist groups and others rolling and rallying back together with a bunch of, frankly, leftover equipment that wasn't even pulled out correctly. And there's like human beings grasping on to the landing gear, trying to get a spot on the plane to get the fuck out, because they know for a fact when all these regime members come back and start burning American flags and stuff, that it's lights out for those that are deemed unworthy supporters or sympathizers of the West, and God bless what they're going to do to the women and the kids, because it's unfathomable. And that's the beginning of the world stage problems.
Yeah, that was just at the very beginning. But I mean, it is, you know, a Benghazi situation for him, if not worse, you know. So, and then he comes back home, or, you know, the soldiers are having their funeral, and he's looking at his watch the entire time, like, how long do I have to be here? You know, it's that type of indifference. It's that type of, like, sticking his nose up at the American people over all of these incidences, from Afghanistan on all the way through Hawaii and Ohio and everything else in between. Like, it's that same level of indifference to the American people that people are noticing. Even people on his side are noticing. And they're like, I can't support this anymore. I can't be a part of this. This is obvious that this is an intentional implosion, a controlled demolition of the United States, and I voted for it. I cannot be a part of it anymore. You know, and it's going to be really interesting in the next couple of months. I'm not excited, to be honest with you, because I don't think it's going to be pretty. I think all of what we've seen up to this point has been child's play, and I think once we get past May and into the summer months, we're going to start really seeing some that I don't think the American people are prepared. I don't want them, you know, my kids are going to have to basically emotionally shield up. You know, I don't want to scare them, but it's also like, what good is it to not prepare them? And then they're going to be scared regardless. But like, I have to walk and navigate that very carefully and go, hey, look, don't panic, you know, let's be realistic. Let's be, but we got to be cautious, and we got to be alert and keep our eyes on what's going on in the world around us.
And get pragmatic where you can. Yeah. Vote with your dollars. Vote with your vote. Spend time in the communities that fucking matter, and stop supporting or tangentially supporting the narratives. Figure it out for yourself. Ask questions. Let ethics be your guide. Is this correct? Should this be happening? Like, the world is too full of misinformation. Some things you got to figure out for yourself. And it doesn't mean we're always going to land on the same side on every issue, but look around. Is America a cooler place to be in your city, in your neighborhood? Are your catalytic converters being stolen every day? Is crime out of control? Like, these are decisions that doesn't take somebody that you look up to that has a PhD in some discipline to tell you how you should think. Is it fair? Do you have a future? Are you going to get that job that you want? Will you have retirement? Is Social Security going to be around by the time you need it? It probably won't be for when I need it.
No.
You know?
But it's like, that's the scariest thing for me is the apathy that grows within.
Yes, the nonchalance and the apathy is outrageous to me. Like, how can you not care? You know?
And it could do one of two things in the age group that we're talking about. And I'm talking about kids, you know, between right now the ages of cognitive ability of 8, 9, 10 through their early 20s right now. That group of kids who've been watching all of this go down and had the trauma of the lockdowns, and then the world flipped upside down and has gotten weirder and weirder every day since.
Yep.
It's going to go in one of two directions: either complete apathetic collapse because they just don't have the coping mechanisms to actually deal with it, or a fire will build inside of them and said, we're not
enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
Yeah.
And we're not dealing with, you guys screwed all of this up and we're done. And take the reins in a way that we've lost the ability to for the previous 2 or 3 generations, basically since the boomers, who have refused to let go after they screwed everything up through the 60s and 70s and are still holding the reins today. Like, most of the power players in our society are all of that era, and they are refusing to let go. They're refusing to pass the torch. They're refusing to be a part of any working thing that will actually not benefit them. Yeah. So that they can take the money to the grave.
And to the rest of things around it, they'd rather bury their head in the sand. Well, something's got to happen.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of meetings I go to locally where, you know, Aaron and I are dramatically the youngest people in the room by, 25 years or more. And the wheel spinning bullshit that happens with these old people. And some of them I love. Some of them I love dearly. Good-hearted, nice people. But still part of the problem. They're still part of they just sit there and love to tell their old war stories about what they used to do or what they, but they're not willing to let go. They're not willing to give up a seat. They're not willing to give up a seat for anybody who has any good ideas at all. They just want to, because it's their badges. Oh, right. I'm the chairman of this committee. I'm the chairman of that committee.
Right.
Like, did you see what I did? Did you see what I did? It's basically their identity. They've created an entire retirement identity around their civic duty, instead of going, okay, our civic duty is to teach the next generation the ropes
prior to trending toward full collapse. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they're willing to ride the plane all the way into the dirt as long as they're in charge doing it. And it's even the ones with the best intentions, but it is wild to sit in a room where nothing gets done because they just all want to pontificate and they want their voice to be heard and they think that their voice is important. And and they spin their wheels. And so now we're stuck in a situation where excuse me, my generation and even the millennial generation aren't going to ever have a seat at that chair until they die, or seat at that table until they die. But I think my kids are going to kick those chairs over. I think my kids are going to come in and go, none of you, like millennials and Gen X, you were too apathetic. You went, whatever, they're all a bunch of idiots. We're going to do our own thing. Millennials, you were disaffected and completely useless. Boomers, you're done.
flipping tables, we're taking over, and we're sick of how the structure you guys have built here, because it is only hurting everybody. And so I think that's hopefully my hope is that fire is built in this generation through trauma. And
I agree.
But unfortunately, I think it's going to be split pretty 50-50 on that. I think we're going to have a bunch of, medicated, going to therapy for every little fingernail.
Too much anxiety, too much, softness. There's, life's woes are because of a construct resulting from somebody else that makes it their problem. Yeah.
I think it's actually going to be a weird, what we haven't discussed about this is I think that it's going to actually create a class society that we haven't even seen before in history.
I wasn't going to go there, but I thought about going there. Yeah.
I think once we get there generationally and they're the ones that are kind of, it's going to split 50-50 with the kind of like more or less slug people who are completely succumbing to that trauma, and the ones that use the trauma and took it into leadership roles.
Right.
I don't think we've ever in society have seen that kind of split where we've got the medicated.
Yeah. Such a craving to be led.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
And so I think it's going to be a very interesting, like, if we get through the next year, let's just put it that way. But once we get past that, and these kids are all now, in adulthood, and most of the boomers have kind of died off because they're all in their, 70s and 80s now. I think we're going to see a very weird kind of social structure come out of that I don't think people are ready for. I think we haven't even written books about it yet. So
I agree.
Philosophically.
I agree.
Yeah.
I feel like that was our list today. I know this was kind of talking about current topics, but we took a week off. My dinner bell rang a little bit ago, and I got to get after it. I know that you got to get some food too. When we come back, I think we've got a brand new Defending Woke Logic in the pipeline that we'd love to talk with you about. I need to get over the fact that I have not seen Roadhouse until very recently and watch that. I've got a lot of takes on that. So I think we can.
I'll come back with a movie review too.
Pack that into next show, which will hopefully be a little more uplifting. But this was killer.
Was a dark one.
This is killer conversation that I think needs to be had and continue to explore, because there's a lot more areas I want to touch on regarding some of the things that we talked about. So I'm here for it.
And our next guest is going to be barbecue. So
let's bring him in right now. Let's see if we can get him on the chat. Did you really eat people? Is that no? Okay. What was a cop like?
So
did you plant any evidence
at one time? Yeah.
Man, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Absolutely.
Happy anniversal as well. What a milestone.
Thank you very much. Yep.
But
I plan on we're getting divorced at 20, so this was a good one. So
we're in the 11th hour. I got it.
Yeah.
Cool, man. I know you've got some dinner plans as well, so we'll probably end it here.
Yep.
We've been at it for a little bit, but thanks everyone for tuning in. You can check us out on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Drop us a line, modernrelicspodcast@gmail.com if you feel the need to. We're also on YouTube. Feel free to stop by and say hi there too.
Please do. Leave comments. We like them.
Yeah. We get watched a lot usually after it goes live, but feel free to join us while we're live. We try to do it Pacific time between 4 and 6 p.m. on Tuesdays. So we try to get at you when we can. But love you, brother. Good to see you.
Love you too, man.
We'll talk soon.
See you as always. Sounds good.
See you guys.